should be able to see it now. Yes?
Yes.
Perfect. I wanted to talk to you today about the 10 tips for effective meetings to help make your monthly programs within your leagues more effective. And you will be getting a PDF with all of these slides, but feel free to jot down notes as we go, because I'm going to go fast and furious to get through all 10 of these tips in the time allotted. Number one, we want to make sure we have planned our meeting. Get a list from your speakers of 3 things that the participants will learn to promote the session. This will help attract individuals to your monthly programming. Create a catchy title. When people are looking through Facebook and Eventbrite for possible events to attend, it's that title and the keywords, the hashtags that you link to your event that are going to attract prospective members. Even if you have the best program, if you don't have a catchy title that describes what the participants are coming in to learn, they are not going to see the value of that, and they might not even click on the event to find out more about it. Use a multitude of different tools at your disposal to promote your events. You can use your website, your social media, your email, Eventbrite, all to promote, because you're going to catch people at different times. And most people have to see things multiple times in order to actually follow through with the registration process. They say that you have to invite someone 6 times to an event before they'll come one time. So having that multi-layered approach is really important. Plus, you could potentially get different target markets using different types of media. Most of our younger millennials really aren't into Facebook. They use more of Instagram and Reels, and so utilizing those types of media to attract those individuals, whereas others may resonate more to Facebook or using Eventbrite, for example. Have a plan for the timeline of your event from start to finish so that you can keep the meeting on track, and find out in advance what support materials the speaker needs. As a speaker myself, sometimes I go to events, and if I haven't double checked on things, sometimes it goes awry that something happened because I didn't double check. For example, my laptop does not have an HDMI port. So I've gone to do presentations, not been able to hook up to the projector because they don't have the appropriate cord. Making sure that your speaker has the things that they need to be successful will help your meeting run much more smoothly. Number 2, know your audience. Your program should appeal not only to your members, but also your prospective members. There should be learning tidbits for all seasons of someone's career, from someone who is just getting started in their work experience to our more seasoned members who are maybe mentoring other individuals. If you don't have learning tidbits for everyone, they're not going to be as engaged or interested in attending that program, and you may see a difference in your attendance. Planning interactivity for in-person and Zoom attendees. This is really important to help engage everyone. And if you have a hybrid meeting, how you interact with the people online as well as those who are in the room, so that everyone feels like they're a part of the programming. Number 3, organize the information. Prep and publish any supporting information in advance so it can be reviewed by attendees ahead of the meeting. If you have your agenda planned out, send that to your members in advance so they know what talking points are going to be discussed. For example, if you're working on an upcoming fundraiser, that way people have that information that they need and they come prepared to discuss for a more effective meeting. If you have handouts and they're not printed for attendees, Distribute those in advance. So those who want to print them can. I like to have that piece of paper. I typically, if I'm at a presentation, I would much rather take notes on PowerPoint slides or handouts than take electronic notes. So I prefer the printed paper. And if you send those to your attendees in advance, they can do what they see fit with them, whether it's downloaded on their iPad or whatnot. And we can even actually pop in the chat just as a fun survey. If you prefer printed handouts, put printed. If you prefer to have an electronic handout, put electronic. And you can kind of see how our group here today, what their preferences are. So you can put that in the chat while we're going through this. Have scannable QR codes and links ready for virtual attendees. So if you have a handout and you've sent it out, there's always someone who can't find the handout because they either have a huge inbox or it was sent to the wrong email or they just can't find it based on the keyword. Having a QR code on your slides or a link in the chat will enable your attendees to grab that information when they need it without having to hunt for it. So be ready for that because it always happens. An example was today with the agenda. There was some of us that couldn't find the agenda. And so had we had that on the slide, it would have been helpful to facilitate making sure everyone had that. Number 4, make everyone feel valued. Greet people as they come into your meeting. Get your members engaged with all of the guests. Introduce guests to members. Have them make connections with other people of similar interests. So this involves asking people about themselves personally and professionally, and then creating the connection with other members that have similar interests or occupations so that they feel like they have a connection with other people in the room other than the person who is sitting next to them that invited them, because that's going to help them want to come back. Ask people about their business and personal life and seek their input throughout the meeting. Not everyone is outspoken. There are individuals that are sitting in your events every month that don't say anything other than their introduction. So trying to get them engaged in conversation and asking their feedback as you go through your event is important. Number 5, start and end on time. Have enough time for setup. This is one of those things that there's always hiccups, and whether it's you can't connect to the internet or your speaker's having difficulty, give enough time for that setup up front so that you're not stressed as guests are starting to arrive. Communicate with the speaker what time they need to get ready, allow them to test the system, load their presentation. This is really important to help make your meeting run smooth and flawless and have people not feel flustered when things aren't happening. If you test the system in advance and you know something like a screen share is not enabled, you can correct that before it comes time for that part of the event. Have the VP of Communications, your secretary, or an assigned note taker ready with the agenda to take notes. The leader should have a timeline for the meeting to stay on track. I have mixed feelings about putting the actual time for different things on the agenda, because if you fall behind, some people get caught up on the start and end time, but you have to feel out your group. But at least the leader know what the timeline is for each part of the meeting so that they can keep the meeting flowing. Send detailed items to meeting attendees in advance to review. We talked about this. This is really important when you're talking about bylaws or budgeting or reports. You can send those to attendees in advance, and that saves on paper and printing costs, but enables them to look at those as well. Send the agenda in advance, and lengthy items like fundraisers, special events should be discussed in a separate meeting with a high-level discussion at the monthly event, because you don't want that particular project to take over the entire meeting. And I know many of your groups or your leagues are doing that. As I've seen, as I visited leagues, that you're having separate meetings for those big events. Number 6, accountability towards goals. In terms of your board, especially if you are the president, Making sure that we're holding people accountable towards reaching the goals that we set for our league. Keep a record of any decisions that are being made during your meetings, and keep an action log. Use this as a tool for the next meeting so that you don't have to go back. You can cut and paste an action chart with the item, who's responsible, and when they said they would get it done by, and then use that as a tool at the beginning of the next meeting as a follow-up to see where you're at on each one of those progress goals and hold people accountable. It's also an easy tracking tool to get things done. Who here loves a list, right? Number 7, stay on track. Stick to the agenda. Items that are not on the agenda or off topic can go to a parking lot. A lot of times when I'm doing presentations, I have either a virtual whiteboard or a physical board that I write questions or things that we're going to return to later in the presentation if they come up. Or if you're doing a meeting agenda, you can have those discussed as new business. Use Robert's Rules of Order to keep you on track. And I sent Rebecca a short form cheat sheet with some simple guidelines on how to use Robert's Rules of Orders. But in a nutshell, subject is proposed, whatever that subject is. Then you have a motion and someone second. This should be fast because everyone in your league, if you're using this regularly, we shouldn't get caught up on the mechanics of this first part. Then we open it up for discussion. And once the discussion is resolved or you feel like the discussion is going in circles, we can call for a vote or table that particular issue. Number 8, keep it constructive and positive at your meetings. Every once in a while, Rebecca said, we have a lot of strong personalities and people that are used to being leaders in ABWA. And sometimes we have personality conflicts that come up. Let's keep those personality conflicts out of the meeting and stay positive. If you are an individual or you have a chapter or a league member that has a problem with the way something is happening, that person should be able to make recommendations for change or improvement if they have a problem. So don't just come with a problem, come with a proposed solution, and that opens it up for constructive and positive dialogue with your league members. Be willing to step up and change if change is needed. We can't improve our leagues, we can't improve our programs and our membership if we're not willing to step up and raise a hand and say, yes, I will volunteer to co-chair this, and get your members engaged on multi-levels of your league. Conflict should be dealt with in private, not at the meeting. Number 9, summarize. At the end of your meeting, the speaker should, or at the end of the program, the speaker should summarize their key 3 learning points. As a learning tool, this is really helpful to kind of come full circle with your learning participants to recognize what it is that they should have taken away from the presentation. These attendees should leave with action items of how they can implement the program ideas to their business or personal life. Otherwise, it's just good information. If you attend a great program and you learn so much, but you don't apply it to your business or your personal life, well, it was just a great program. It's just information that you'll probably never think about again. But if you create an action plan to implement it, you can really utilize your programs and encourage your members to utilize programs to make changes for the better in their personal or their career. At the end of your meeting, the president should summary all of the items decided on for members, just a bullet points of, okay, we decided this today. And on a positive note, I love ending a meeting with an inspirational quote or a message. I know a lot of the leagues end their meetings with thank yous or brags, and this is another great technique to really build people up at the end of the meeting. Lastly, engage your attendees. Assign or get people involved in volunteering for different roles throughout the meeting. In addition to note taking, Maybe there's other different roles like hospitality and someone to move the microphone around the room if you have a virtual meeting, as an example. Encourage your members, your attendees, to speak up during the meeting and to share their viewpoints and ideas. We all have so much to learn from each other. Get input from everyone, not just the assertive members. If you have members that are not speaking up at meetings, you can encourage them by saying, no, what do you think? Calling them out by name, or at the beginning of the meeting, prep them, noting that you would really like to hear from them at the meeting. Would it be okay if you ask their opinion on X during the meeting? So there's two different strategies there that you can utilize. Brainstorm and create lists to get more input. When we do a brainstorming exercise with our members and attendees, we're stimulating discussion later. This is just ideas, and you tend to get more creativity out of your members. Ask open-ended questions. If you just asked, for example, a yes, no, did you like the program? You're not getting a lot of information. However, if you reword that, what did you like about the program? You can garner more discussion or input and more valuable information from the individuals that you're talking with. And finally, include activities about every 10 minutes to keep individuals engaged. One of the things that I did here is had you put a little comment in the chat as an example. So those are the 10 tips for effective meetings. Plan your meeting, know your audience, organize the information, make everyone feel valued, start and end on time, have accountability towards your goals, stay on track, keep it constructive and positive, summarize, and lastly, engage your attendees. I'll open it up to any questions before we move on to the next section. Let me check the chat. Interestingly, a lot of you love the printed offerings for handouts. So that is great information that you can just see